Hey friends!
I'm Rudo.
And I'm wanipa, and welcome to the Dwelling Space.
CDS.
Yes.
Second episode.
Can't believe it.
I
We're
know.
2 in.
We just wanted to say, first of all, that we really appreciate the support, the shares, the likes,
the comments.
I hate to sound like we're those influencer people,
but
thank you so much for the love, guys.
Yeah, we love you guys. We love our fans.
No, but honestly, we really appreciate it. And we're so glad that you guys have been enjoying the first episode, and we have a lot of things in store this year. We have a lot of episode ideas that we've thought up, so we're really excited, and just thank you so much.
Yes. What are we doing for our icebreaker today?
I just want to know how your week was. How was your week? Not the sigh.
Girl, deep spiritual sigh, honey.
Oh dear.
My week was very long, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
It was really hard. I think since coming back from Christmas, the grind in terms of work has just been super intense. For those of you who know what it's like to work in commercial law, you will know that the hours are not friendly. They're not hot girl friendly.
Yes.
And I've done a lot of late nights this week, which was tiring. But yeah, I really enjoyed the Sabbath we had yesterday at church.
We had a really lovely Sabbath.
Yes, and it was very cathartic as well. I felt like for a while I'd had some pent up emotion that I didn't know what was the underlying cause, but we had some time for reflection and prayer, and I let it all out. I cried, honey. I cried.
Yeah, several times.
And I left it at the altar.
Yes, that's exactly what we're meant to do.
Exactly. There's no better place to leave your emotions, because now I feel you know what? It's out there. It's taken care of. God sees. # Elroy.
Yes, Elroy. Yes. Word to Hagar.
Yes. Queen.
Yes. So now you're ready for the week ahead.
Now I'm ready for the week ahead. I know that it might not be easy, but I'm doing it with God.
Amen.
So
I love that.
Yeah. How was your week?
My week was also very long. It was one of those weeks where Tuesday's about to end, and in your head you're like, wow, I thought it was Thursday.
Literally.
This week has just been so long. But I got through. Work wasn't the worst week that I've had at work. So for that, I'm grateful.
Amen.
Every day that goes by and something terrible doesn't happen at work is a real blessing for me. So I was really grateful for that. I was grateful for our lovely Sabbath.
Yes.
We also hung out with some friends on Friday.
Yes, we did. That was so lovely.
Yes.
# happy birthday dots.
Happy birthday dots. But yeah, I think we've had a really replenishing weekend.
Yes, for sure. For sure.
And I feel ready for the week ahead. Except for the fact that I have a load of ironing to do, which I will do after this filming.
It's always treacherous activity.
Yeah.
With Muhammad Ali of
ironing.
Yeah.
Exactly. So what we're gonna get into today is something a little bit personal.
Yes.
And a little bit vulnerable.
Yeah, we thought, not everyday giggles. Sometimes truth, sometimes tears.
Yes. We're going to make sure that we're keeping it real vulnerable in this space.
Yes. We want it to be safe, open.
And we're going to be talking about body image,
body tea, face tea.
Yes. Our body image and how we feel about it, how we interact with it, how being a Christian kind of changes the lens in which we perceive our body image. I think they're all really important topics to touch on.
For sure. And I feel, do you know what? Maybe we'll get into this later. I feel like this is a topic often young women talk about, but actually I think it's something for the guys to get into as well. And
Definitely.
I think there's a lot of negative body image in the male community as well, especially as it pertains to unhealthy obsessions with gym, looking a certain way, trying to be the biggest guy and everything. And but maybe we can get into that. But obviously we'll be focusing on our experiences.
Yes. So first question, just to open it up off the rip. If money was no object, would you get plastic surgery?
I would.
Me too. And we're working on it.
No,
That's
honestly,
the thing. We're working on it.
Yes. What would you get?
You know what? I say this like I'm thinking of in the future.
Yes.
Like when I have all my babies and my niños, I feel like I would ideally love to have like 4 or 5 procedures just to
like the mummy makeover.
Yeah, like
tuck,
rejig it.
Just kind of.
Yes, like get a bit of a tummy tuck going on. Get something done. Like just everything.
Just a little bit of zhoosh.
Yes.
A zhoosh.
Just because I feel like as it stands now with the way my weight fluctuates sometimes, I feel whenever I'm like a bit heavier, I feel really self-conscious. And then in my head, I always think, wow, what am I going to feel like when I'm pregnant? Or what am I going to feel like when I'm postpartum? Like, if I feel this terrible, if I'm just bloating, then how is it going to be later on down the line? That's something that really, really scares me.
Yeah. And it sounds so crazy. And like, I know as I say this, I'm going to sound like just so wrong and everything, but we're just keeping it real. Yeah. That is actually something that genuinely makes me afraid of pregnancy. Because like, I've had such a tumultuous relationship with my body image. And even now, like, as much as I've overcome some really difficult things, like, you know, I struggled with like disordered eating, binge eating, like exercise obsessions, all those type of things. And I'm only now in a place where it's like, every meal I don't like mentally calculate how much I'm eating. Yeah. And like I've only just started to forget how many calories are in this thing and this thing. And even now I still have some really bad days. And I feel like that much weight gain and possibly like the inability to lose it would just really rock my world. But I just pray, God willing, by the time I'm having kids, like I'll be in a different mental space. Amen. And also that the blessing of the children would be like, enough. You know what? Who needs a flat stomach when I have my little, you know,
baby?
Yeah, or babies, preferably. But no, I hear it. The mummy makeover, the full 360 rejig. Yes,
just to get things back to
just a little setting. Tweak. Thank you, iOS.
This is speaking hypothetically, of course.
Yes,
we're working on it still.
Yes, we are. There's no shame in being real.
How do you feel about your body image right now as it stands? Or maybe take us through the journey that you've been on.
I feel like, okay, as it stands, I don't even know if you know this right now, but I've actually been having like a really terrible time with it. Just like I think there was just a string of stuff back to back towards the end of last year, which meant that I was just like eating more than I usually would, or like not necessarily taking care of my body in the way that I would like. And so I did like put on some weight, and I just feel like I'm really frantically trying to get back because I don't feel great, but it's not something that can happen overnight. Like it's a really long process. And so like recently I've just been feeling like, oh my gosh, you look really bad. And I know I'm trying to fight those thoughts, but it's just really difficult. And like, I've been on, like I said, a really long journey, like from a very young age, always with like yo-yo dieting and always just trying to be skinty, and that being like the primary determinant of like my happiness and how I feel about myself would be like my appearance. And
what do you mean by yo-yo dieting as well, for people who might not know?
So yo-yo dieting is basically where you just go through a series of like really extreme like restriction in terms of what you eat, in terms of how you exercise, but then it's not sustainable. You lose weight for a little bit and then it comes back, and then you do the same. But it just has such bad effects for your health mentally and physically. And I've been on that train since I was literally like 7. So it's really difficult to get out of that mindset. And I feel like last year, towards the middle and the end, I had a real breakthrough with that. I really committed it to God. And I found some amazing resources from like therapists and stuff like that, which really helped me with some of the eating side of things. But to be honest, it never really fully leaves you, or at least that's my experience so far. I know it hasn't been long, but it's hard to fully get to a place of like, oh, I feel great, I look amazing, like, yes, I'm sexy, boom. And I think I also put pressure on myself, like, oh, really, you still thinking about that? Like, I thought we were over that. I thought we were healed from that. And sometimes I do feel pressure to just be better. And I feel pressure, like, to not be annoying by bringing it up to my friends. But some days it's like the only thing I can think about when I'm going places, and it's really overwhelming. So I'm just looking forward to a time where that will not bother me as much. I know it's coming in the coming months. I'm claiming it in Jesus' name.
Amen.
But right now it's just a bit difficult.
I think that it's really difficult because, like you said, it's something that you have been thinking about and that's been on your mind since you were really young. And it's hard to just switch that off. And I think that you shouldn't put pressure on yourself to be in a space where it's like this doesn't bother you at all anymore, because it's a journey. The way you might feel kind of waking up feeling good one day and then waking up feeling not so good the next day. It's not so much about how you're feeling, but I guess also remembering that no matter where it is that you feel, you know where you stand with God, you know the way it is that he sees you. And I think that that's more the important thing to hold on to, even though it is really, really hard in the moment, because it's kind of like, well, but I look really bad in these jeans though.
Yeah. I feel like I've only recently started to actually, in fact, okay, real honest moment. So I really sometimes struggle to believe the promises of God in that regard, because I just feel like when I was at my lowest in terms of my appearance, which was probably around like lockdown, university, towards the middle and end of university, people would just like quote to me, "Oh, you're fearfully and wonderfully made." And I get what they're trying to do. That's great in theory, but when you really don't believe that, I just feel like hearing it didn't really do much for me. And I think it's one thing to read the words of God, and it's a whole other thing to actually internalize and believe that. And that goes for the whole Bible. But I sometimes struggle with that. I think it's something that I've just got so used to hearing that it's just kind of like, child, it's almost like it's lost its spark. Yeah. Even though it's like the word of God shouldn't be that way. But honestly, that's how I feel. And I do try to remember like, oh, you know, these things don't matter to God as much, but it's difficult because the world tells you that it matters. Yeah. It makes you feel like you're undesirable from a dating point of view. It makes you feel like people are looking at you and judging you, or that people see you as unhealthy. It's just a lot of different things to carry. Like I remember when I was younger, I used to really have a thing of like not wanting to eat snacks on the bus in case people would look at me and be like, oh, that's why that girl's so fat, because she be eating all the time. It's just like
that's not funny. That is not funny. That's the way you said it. We're not good. We're not. No. Sorry, guys. Sorry. That wasn't funny. I really hope you didn't laugh along with us.
Yeah, that was really bad of you. If you did.
Exactly. But the girl on the bus.
Yeah, I used to. There's just so many ways in which the world enforces fat phobia that are so subtle that it's really hard to tune yourself out of that. And I guess, you know, Christians are drawn to be different and not meant to kind of believe the world standards, but I'm not going to sit here and act like it's easy just because I'm Christian to undo every single bit of cultural messaging that I've received since I was a child. Yeah. You know?
No, I understand that, to be honest. Yeah. Like, I don't think when you go on social media and like even when you go to family friends or family members, they make their own comments.
They always gonna have something to say, honey.
Yes, it's hard to kind of be like, well, God says I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. It's kind of like, oh, but baby, like, you know what? Like, it's hard to hold on in that sense. Yeah. And on your point about the promises of God kind of feeling almost falling on deaf ears, I think that's something that I sometimes struggle with in terms of whenever you're going through something. It's kind of like, you know, they that wait on the Lord will renew their strength, and it's like, oh,
I feel quite weak actually.
Yeah, and I don't want to wait.
Yeah,
I do mind waiting.
Yeah, like, I do mind waiting.
I think that is really hard, but it reminds me of yesterday during our small group when we were discussing in Genesis 1 how God says that he created Adam and Eve in his image. And we kind of went on a tangent trying to dissect and pick apart what that actually means, if that makes sense. Like bringing it in, like, what does it mean to be made in God's image? What does God look like, etc., etc. I find it really useful. This isn't like a one size fits all. I'm just like spitballing. Yeah. But like, I find it really useful that like when I feel like the promises aren't making sense or aren't really hitting the way that they used to, I find it useful to dig into them a bit more and like kind of find ways to uncover what it was that God actually meant by that. And in that way, I find them a little bit more comforting.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
No, it does. And I think going back to, you're fearfully and wonderfully made, I think maybe there's something in not always trying to equate that to how somebody physically looks. And maybe there's something about like attaining a healthy standard of contentment or neutrality towards your body and realizing that being fearfully and wonderfully made is deeper than surface level. It's about like the care and the attention that God took into molding your character and your attributes. And I know that won't help everybody, but I think for me, what I found to be a huge blessing, and actually what was a significant part of like helping me on my healing journey, was people increasingly recognizing kind of like my spiritual gifts and attributes and complimenting me in a way that was deeper than surface level. Like friends saying to me, "Oh, I can see Jesus in you." To me, that's the highest honor. And I did genuinely start to think maybe the way I look isn't the most important thing about me. And I think that's been one of the most important things that's helped me. So I think you're right. It's really important to like actually delve into the promises of God and not just take them as a surface level kind of tagline, which I think it's so easy for Christianity to become. Because people just want it to be
Instagrammable quotes.
Like nice, a neat package that can make you feel better about, the things that you want to feel better about. But the truth is, this life is hard. And I think packaging deep wounds with a plaster of a tagline is not the way forward. It's not the way. It's not the tea.
And I guess on your point about people complimenting you on things that aren't necessarily like about your physical or outward appearance, for me, like when I think of you as a friend or like you as a member of our church community, there's so many words that come to my head, or like so many descriptions that I can think of you. Obviously you're a baddie, so like we're not even gonna like go into that too much, but like just the fact that you're so like ready and willing to serve, like you really have a caring heart towards people. You have the gift of exhortation, which I will tell you again and again, like very useful in the kingdom. I think that it's beautiful that God imbues all of us with these different gifts. And in the same sense, it's only when we are really surrounded by a godly community that those things can really come out and shine, which I think is really important to know as well.
Oh, thank you so much, Queen. That was really kind.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Speaking of my own body image, I think that I struggle with my body image more when I compare myself to other people. I think that if I lived my life in a silo or in a vacuum, I would feel like, oh, my body's like just fine. I'm okay the way I am. But then when I log on to other mediums like social media or TV or anything like that, that's when I'm kind of like, oh, my body could be better because like my tummy could be flatter, or I'm okay, but this could be bigger, or that could be smaller. The list goes on and on and on. And even just really benign things, like, when you hear about a really obscure surgery that's kind of like, why would anybody think of getting that? Then when I hear about it, it's kind of like, oh yeah, maybe I should get that.
Yeah, like, what that was for me is when people started doing that fox eyes thing.
Yeah.
Where you get like an injection up here and it would make your eyes upturned. And I was like, oh my gosh, are my eyes really droopy?
Yeah,
like, my eyes are weird shape. I kind of need that.
And it's kind of like, no, you don't.
It's kind of like, put down the needle, baby.
Yes. I think that's really hard, I guess, because we're so surrounded by social media and people's constant takes on things. And I'm even find myself to be guilty of when I'm scrolling on social media. I'm kind of like, oh yeah, she could use this or she could use that, which is something that I'm genuinely working on. A bleaching, like, but that's something that I'm working on because I know that that's not what I'm supposed to be thinking when I'm looking at other people. And I would hate to think that people think that way when they look at me. But it's just really hard because we're surrounded by these images of so-called perfection. Like, we're surrounded by, like, this augmented or really, like...
an artificial
view of themselves. Like, it makes me remember when a few years ago, I used to have this really good friend, which objectively, she was so pretty in real life, like really just a stunning girl. But then when it came to Instagram and stuff, she would take a picture and then it went through the whole processes, going through 3 different apps and like editing this and brightening this and tucking this and widening that, etc., to the point where when she posted it, you wouldn't be able to tell by the naked eye, but because I got a glimpse of the behind the scenes, yes, I would know how much it was edited. And to me, I would think that, wow, I find you so pretty. I think that like you don't need all of that stuff. But if somebody who looks like that needs all of that, then what hope is there for little old me? Do you know what I mean? And the same could be applied for even someone like Kylie Jenner or Kim Kardashian. Like, you know that they go through reams and reams of editing their photos before they post them out, and people are like, wow, natural beauty, so gorgeous. But it's kind of like, it wasn't natural.
That's not real.
Yeah. And it's not that healthy to look up to people to that extent, because you don't know how they truly feel about their bodies. You don't even know the way they could have doctored their own images.
Yeah.
But it's just really difficult, I guess, when you're surrounded by it.
Yeah, for sure. And to be fair, I think, so 2 things. Firstly, on that, I feel maybe we have some responsibility to play, and actually, like, you can doctor your own social media feed. Like, it's certain people that I knew, like, you are beautiful, you look amazing, but I'll be real, seeing you doesn't really help me how I feel about myself. And I don't need to have you always on my feed all the time. If that's going to be like a, I love you, support you from afar, beautiful gowns, moi, that's all it needs to be.
Definitely.
Because I also think we can talk about how, like, oh, celebrity culture idolizes whatever, but we have the power within our own sphere of influence to, like, block what does have the power to impact us that deeply.
Yeah, we have that agency.
The eyes are the window to the soul, like, you know what I mean? And what you surround yourself with is what's going to fill your mind and what's going to impact you. And the second thing is actually the point that you made about kind of looking at other people's pictures and be like, ooh, queen, was that? Oh, that's not...
We're working on it.
Yeah,
we're working on it.
I remember one time Juanita was preaching. Queen, by the way, like, love her down. If you're watching this, like,
love you, Juanita.
I love you, Queen. But she was preaching at London Live, and I think it's in her sermon called The Flash. If anyone wants to go look it up on YouTube,
the one on Paul/Saul.
No, it actually wasn't that one. Actually,
on the road to Damascus.
No, I'm quoting the wrong name. It was
we're fans.
Yeah, we know her multiple body of work. Come on. But it was about Dina when she got assaulted and abducted by the Shechemites, and she kind of told it from the perspective of Dina living with the shame of what had happened to her. And the topic was more broadly about shame in general. And she made the really good point that when you harbor a lot of internal shame, you're more likely to project that onto other people as well. And that resonated with me really deeply, because I acknowledge that because I've grown up with such a critical eye of my own body, I'm actually very perceptive of other people's as well. And it's really hard for me to turn off that eye in my head, because it's like I compare myself a lot to other people, and I think that's where that comes from. But I'm really trying to unlearn that and just like understand that beauty isn't like totally external, you know?
No, definitely. And on the point of beauty not being external, God encourages us not to be vain, or like
not to uphold physical beauty as the ultimate standard of beauty in general.
Exactly, because to God and from a Christian lens, beauty comes from like spiritual gifts and things from within. So kindness and generosity, gratitude, wisdom, things like that, and those can't be obtained with a surgery or with a Snapchat filter, etc., etc. Those are things that can only be watered and developed and grown fully through a relationship with God.
Yes.
So I think that bringing vanity into it also adds an interesting angle, because then on the other side of the coin, is it vain to just kind of want to be
a baddie?
Not a baddie per se, but is it vain to want to feel confident in yourself
and to like just put together a look? Like,
yes,
this isn't a side, but I was watching this TikTok and this girl was talking about like girl hobbies, and she was like, oh, when people ask me what are my hobbies, my knee jerk is always to say I don't have any because I don't play an instrument, but dressing up and looking nice, that's a girl hobby. Running
is a girl
errands,
hobby.
that's a girl hobby.
Yeah.
Stalking somebody on social media, that's a girl hobby. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like getting glam, swooping my edges, doing my makeup, putting a look together. I'm a look queen.
Yeah,
it's what I do.
Mm-hmm.
That's my girl hobby. Yes. Is there anything wrong with that?
I don't think there's anything wrong with being a look queen, but I guess it depends on the intention behind it. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you just kind of want to turn a look because it's a Tuesday, like, I'm always obviously going to support that. But I think that the issue comes with bringing in the vanity again. You want to turn a look because you want people to, like,
look at you and, like, see, oh, she's that girl, or I'm obsessed with her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
which I think
sure.
is, like, it's a hard thing to switch on and off.
Yeah, for sure. Because obviously, like, the clout of getting compliments from people, it does fuel your desire to continue being a look queen.
Yes.
That's why it's such pressure on birthdays and such.
Yeah, definitely.
The people are expecting a look.
And we need to deliver.
And I have done for the past 4 years consecutively.
Yeah.
Check my stats. But that was reminding me of this verse. It's 1 Peter 3, verse 3 to 6. And it says, your beauty should not come from outward adornment, such as elaborate hairstyles and the wearing of gold jewelry or fine clothes. Rather, it should be that of your inner self, the unfading beauty of a gentle and quiet spirit, which is of great worth in God's sight. And then it continues and continues and talks about how, like, this is how, like, the good women of the past would adorn themselves. And that's what God really commends. But again, I think that's one of those where I'm going to take that to the secret place and I'm going to pray over that because it's really difficult to switch that voice off in your head, you know?
No, I understand that. I love that verse though, just because I guess it kind of, no matter what you look like or how you feel, it's more about, I hate to be cliche, like I'm being really cliche right now, but no matter how it is that you look like or you feel about yourself, it's more about what is inside that matters, because there's been countless people that I've met that are such beautiful people on the outside, but then when you get down to talking to them and getting to know them, it's like, ooh, there's a block there, because it's like, you are
funky.
Yeah, you're not that nice, you're quite nasty, like, I don't love spending time with you, etc., etc. And like I was saying before, I feel like the way that your personality shines through, I think that speaks volumes in and of itself. Like, I haven't met anybody who said a bad thing about you yet. Maybe you're introducing me to the wrong people though.
They're out there.
Oh,
no, I'm kidding. I'm not. But you know what? Just actually circling back and circling quite far back, because I was meaning to say this at the time. It really struck me when you said that you feel like your body image is affected when you compare yourself to people, because I feel like unless y'all have the visual, y'all might not know Rudo's body is tea.
Wait,
no, genuinely, her body is tea, face tea, everything tea. Like, sorry to make you shy, but
shy.
It's just, I feel like I look at you and compare myself to you, and then you look at other people and compare yourself to them. So then that just tells me that comparison really is an unhealthy lens to look at people with, because there's no end to it. Yeah, because I'm looking at you thinking like, oh, if only I had some of that Zimbabwean, you know, the bat and everything. And you looking at the bat, and you're looking at somebody with a South African bat.
Yeah, so like, oh, I wish I looked like her.
Right. So it's kind of like comparison really is the theme of find it. Comparison really is the thief of joy, and it is. It reminds me of this verse, 1 Timothy 6, verse 6, and it says, "But godliness with contentment is great gain. For we brought nothing into the world, and we cannot take anything out of it. But if we have food and clothing, with these we'll be content." And I think that for me was a big theme of 2023, was trying to get to a place of contentment. Yeah, because I realized that all the times I was in a bit of a spiritual funk, or all the times I found myself not really trusting God, it was because I'd allowed the things I could see to interfere with my contentment, and that was making me question the goodness of God. Yeah. But I think being content is really the key to everything.
Yeah, because once you feel fully content in your body, the way you look, your career, your friends, whatever the case may be, that's when you're able to kind of limit the comparison, and you're like, but I'm good where I'm at.
Yeah.
Like, we're good over here.
You lead with gratitude.
Yeah, definitely.
As opposed to envy.
And I feel like when speaking about body image, especially as two young Black women, it would be amiss for us not to mention how, one, through the patriarchy, I feel like we're kind of socialized and we grow up in such a sex-centered world.
Yeah.
And a lot of the way that we feel revolves around our own desirability.
For sure.
And then adding the lens of us being Black women in there.
Oh.
There's also an element of, in a lot of spaces, in a lot of circles, Black women aren't seen as very desirable.
Yes.
And the ones who are seen as desirable, they look a certain way, or they act a certain way, they do their makeup or their hair or whatever the case may be a certain way. So then there's a lot of pressure in that sense as well, because obviously, you know, like, everybody wants a man, like, everybody wants to feel desired. Like, yeah, like, obviously,
yes, we're not gonna lie about that.
God created us that way.
Hi.
But, like, when we're navigating these spaces, it's really difficult, because it's kind of like, I don't want to fall into the BBL propaganda, but it seems like the streets love it. So,
it's like, if a BBL will put a rock on this finger, then
what am I supposed to do?
Let's go to Dr. Miami.
Like, come on.
Like,
that is really difficult, I think.
It really is. And two things on that. Firstly, I think it's really important for us to also caveat this by mentioning to the people that we both grew up in predominantly white areas.
Yes.
In the pivotal parts of our teenagehood, which is when I think a lot of this kind of spirals to a point. And so from the jump, we were already
not desirable.
We were comparing ourselves to people we would never look like, beauty standards we would never attain. So I think
my hair would never look like the girls who I grew up with.
Never. My body would never be shaped like that. That's just not how I'm built.
I have sadza for dinner. Like, obviously my body's not gonna look a certain way. Right. I eat sadza. And what about it? Like, worth it? Shima and beef.
The guy, if you saw she. So already we were, I think, I can say for sure I was conditioned into like a mindset of unhealthy comparison.
Yes. From
an early age. And then I think when I got to uni, it was kind of like, okay, yes, Black girls rule the world. But then it became a thing of, now I'm trying to conform to a certain type of Black girl image because that seems to be what's considered pretty.
Yeah.
But it's like, truth be told, I was never built to be a HD frontal girl, and I love the HD frontal girls. I will always support them. So beautiful. I wish I had your talent, but I'm a sister lot girl.
Yeah,
and you know what?
I'm a braid girl.
Yeah, this is who we are.
Yeah,
we actually have had this conversation as well, because I think there was a time where I used to talk to you about it, that it really bothered me that I would not be considered like a stereotypical Badina just because I felt like I don't really fit the, I guess, Black British beauty standard. Like I'm not, and that made me feel like I just wasn't pretty at all. And then I think after a while of just pondering on it, we were just kind of like, you don't need to look a certain type of way to be beautiful. Like, that's not what beauty is.
And I feel like on that point about the Black British like cookie cutter mold, I find it crazy because when I see like your style and stuff, just for context, I feel like this is just an episode we're bigging each other up.
We're like, no, you're amazing.
No, you're great.
No, you're great.
You're so pretty.
You're so beautiful.
No, but wanipa, this runs in the family, to be honest, but wanipa and her older brother are just styled down. Like, when they think of looks, it's kind of like, my brain would have never thought of that. Like, they're so creative. So to me, when you were saying that you wanted to look like all the girls in South London, like, it's kind of like...
no shade.
No shade. All the girls at Paul Brixton.
Like, and we were there.
Yeah. With the Yagi World tracksuit and stuff, it's kind of like, but you're so great as you are. Like, you're so individual. And it also shows that, like, I hate to also bring it back to being cliche. We're so cliche this episode, but it's kind of like, God made everybody so differently and so specifically, and if we were all supposed to look the same, we would have all looked the same.
Yeah,
he definitely has the power to do that. Yeah,
he could have done that,
but he made us different, and I feel like your style is so you, and I love when you own it.
Thank you.
And in the same vein, I'm not at the Yagi World vibe, but like my style's pretty basic.
It's
I love
simple
an
and
all white
classy.
room. I love like long knotless braids, even though this isn't what I'm rocking today. Like,
it's classy. It's very
just
much you. Like if you came and saw our rooms, that's when you would get a full vibe. Like
of who we
our
are.
rooms are like similar flavor, but mine's more like and Rudo's is more like
Calm. Like I want to feel like you're in Greece.
I want to feel
at
like
the spa.
yeah, no, mine is very much like you're kind of in a fun house, but like it has a classy owner.
Maybe like comment down below if you guys want to see a room tour.
I'm not doing no room tour.
Okay, my bad. I wanted to engage, but anyway. Right,
But I get some more posters up in there.
Yes, but I feel like also what's so important that we often skirt over, and it goes back to when you were saying that God's promises don't always hit and having to proper unpack them. One thing for me that I had to unpack and actually unravel and be like, wait, whoa, is the fact that as much as I wear my cross every day, like this, I just throw it on because I like it. But also this,
get a load of this guy.
Yeah, no, come on, I do like it. But also this as a reminder of like Christ's sacrifice and what he did on the cross for us, not only for our salvation, but just because he saw us as that valuable.
Right.
Like I remember one time, somebody said something that has always stuck with me, that if God could look in the future and see that only you, personally you, would be saved by his sacrifice on the cross, he would still do it. That's just how much, that's the like length and breadth of his love for us. So when we think of like our bodies and thinking like, I'm gonna get a tummy tuck, I'm gonna get a BBL, right. It's like, you were bought at a price though.
Oh, wow.
When God put himself up on the cross with all the pain, humiliation, shame, all for you, that was the price that he thought that you were worth.
You're so precious to him.
Yeah,
so
honestly.
in his eyes.
Honestly.
And if you could only see yourself the way he sees you all of
just,
that would fade away.
Yeah.
And there's that hymn like, turn your eyes upon Jesus, look full at his wonderful face, and the things of the earth will go strangely dim in the light of his glory and grace. Those words like really resonate with me because I feel like when I know when I go through seasons of like my eyes are on the cross, everything else, genuinely the noise quiets for me.
Yeah.
It's just background, it's just air. But it's like when I turn my eyes away from that, it's like when Peter was walking on water. As soon as he took his eyes off Jesus, that's when he sunk. So I think that's so important. And even the discussion we were having yesterday about Elohim, it's like God could have just spoken human beings into existence. And he had the power to do that. And his creation would have still been as valid. But instead he got down into the mud and he crafted us with his hands. And I think that's because he wanted us to understand how special we are to him. He did that for us.
Understand the intentionality behind it.
Exactly. He did that for us, not for him.
Yeah.
Because he's the creator. He had the power to make us any which way, but he wanted to say like, no, you're special to me. I was intentional with your creation. You're more important to me than like any of the other beings which I spoke into existence.
Yeah.
If you could only see yourself with that level of love, so much would change.
Yeah, honestly.
So maybe I won't get that BBL.
Well, speaking of not getting a BBL, you were actually considering a cosmetic surgery.
I was.
Real deal, considering researching, looking up clinics.
Budgeting. Sorry, let me reshuffle.
Not budgeting. Do you want to tell the streets about what was going on there?
Yeah. Like last year...
Why are you giggling?
Like I'm feeling really shy now. I feel kind of embarrassed in the light of the conversation we just had.
No, okay, guys, we're keeping it real though. Like,
no, we're keeping it real. Last year, genuinely, at the beginning of the year, I was genuinely, seriously, and I don't even mean this for the geek and the cack of it all. I was considering getting a gastric sleeve. And for those of you who don't know, a gastric sleeve surgery is where they basically chop out part of your stomach, like the actual organ, so that you can't physically eat as much and then you lose weight. Like where after you have the gastric sleeve, you can literally only have like liquid meals and then you can progress to a couple bites of sashimi or something, whatever it is, soup and whatnot.
Yes.
And it really does make people lose weight. And it was because I saw two influencers in particular get it, and genuinely...
And we're gonna talk about influencers a little bit as well.
Yes. They both looked amazing afterwards. And I remember in particular one of their videos where she was breaking down the reasons she got it and everything. She was saying how, yes, it's mentally taxing. It's difficult in winter not being able to have a full, hearty, warm meal when you feel like really cold and you've just had the gastric sleeve. But at the same time, she was saying, you don't know how much it used to occupy my mind and give me anxiety, how I looked, and it used to upset me not being able to wear some of the things because I didn't feel comfortable in them. And now I don't have any of those concerns. And when she said that, something clicked in my mind where I was like, you know
You
what?
need that.
It's worth it.
Yeah.
Because it's honestly so mentally exhausting. I feel it's hard to understand if it's not a particular struggle that you've had to deal with, and I pray that it's not. But after she said that, I was just like, you know what? Let me get on my Google.
I'm going to Antalya.
Yes, I am. I'm booking a return flight, 2 nights, overnight stay, and the price she quoted was not bad. It was not bad.
Price? Give the streets the price.
I think
not for you to do.
Not for you to do. But she said at the time that hers was 2K.
Really?
Yeah, but I don't know whether they gave her some sort of deal, but then people was in the comments, like when they commented that it was more than that, like 6.
Yeah, because why would you let someone chop up in your body for 2K?
Yeah, maybe I'm getting that completely wrong. We can cut that if that's a lie, but
no. Keep the misinformation.
But it was genuinely something that I heard and I was like, that's not that bad. And I actually I spoke to my mom about it. I spoke to you about it. I spoke to another friend, MH, about it. And I think all of you were kind of like, what?
Yeah. Because we always have conversations like, you know, when we're like in our silly girl mood, it's kind of like, oh my gosh, like, let's get BBLs. And but then it's kind of like, we're not being serious though. Yeah. So then when she came with like the research and the pages, I was kind of like, oh my gosh, how do I stop my friend from doing this? Like,
yeah. And I think a good piece of advice I got from my friend Mary Hannah, she was very much against the idea. I just know it. But she was saying, just sit on it for the summer months. And if after summer you come to it and you still want to get it, then save up and get it. And I thank God, because over the summer months, I had a change of heart. And obviously I haven't had that sleeve.
Not obviously, like her body's still tea. Like, I don't know what she's saying, obviously.
That's not no sleeve though.
No girl, bye. But what made you change over the summer months? Like when June hit, what shifted?
You know, I actually say part of it, I went on a mission trip to Mexico.
Yes.
Last year.
She was in the mission. She was delivering the gospel in Cancun. The people of Cancun needed to hear the message on the beach. Islands. Yes. And I'm just saying that because I was jealous.
No, but it was a beautiful trip. I think while I was there, it wasn't that I heard anything particular or had a particular message from God about the situation. But I think just spending like 2 weeks just immersed in the presence of God, surrounded by godly things, it was that thing we were talking about earlier. Like my eyes were so fixed on Jesus that the things of the earth, the things of my body image and wanting to be desirable grew so dim. That was just kind of like, whatever I do in this life, I just want to be an offering to you, Jesus. I just want to be a servant. And I genuinely came back from that trip just wanting to change so many things about my life.
And sorry, speaking on the because I wrote this down in my notes. Speaking on you saying wanting to be a servant, it reminds me of that verse in Galatians where it says, "For am I now seeking the approval of man or of God, or am I trying to please man? If I were still trying to please man, I would not be a servant of Christ."
Right.
And I think it's so pertinent when speaking about body image, because it's kind of like, when doing all of this, who are you trying to please? Right. Or who are you trying to... Yeah, exactly. When the one person who we should always be aiming for is kind of like, I don't care if you have a BBL or not.
Right. It's kind of like, I actually made you without a BBL. So.
Yes.
And also that did come into it when I was just thinking about creation and how much God cares about us. I think there was just something about the intrusive nature of a gastric sleeve, because it's something that's like internal. I don't know why it just clicked differently in my head for that as opposed to something that's like externally more cosmetic. But
yeah.
I think it was the thought of an organ that God put in my body to serve a purpose and a function and made a particular size to work in harmony with the rest of the organs that he made. And then for me to go and be like, actually, you didn't do that quite right. It needs to be smaller so that I can eat less, so that I can... It just felt almost like it was just being rude to God.
Yeah.
It just felt like I wasn't valuing the way he put everything together.
And like impeding on his will.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it just felt like you would go as far as to try to correct God's creation so that you can feel like you look desirable. And so all those things just made me be like, you know what? I don't need that.
And we thank God for that revelation, honestly.
Yeah, honestly. I really feel like God found me in a very sunken place last year and brought me out. I'm really grateful for him.
Me too.
Yeah. I'm not going to cry on this camera. I'm going somewhere later.
So I've done my makeup nicely.
Yep.
I'm not crying today.
You see this concealer?
Yeah, I do. I do. I'm giving you guys a subtle beat today.
Yeah. No, but the natural is gorgeous.
Okay.
Look at that skin, honey. But actually, speaking of concealer, we were just talking about like outward appearance, outward beauty, that sort of thing. And I know we've talked about it in what some might call an extreme context in terms of body surgery and that sort of thing. But could we not bring like wearing makeup into that?
That's true.
Like,
I think.
How do you feel about that?
I think that when I was younger, I used makeup as a crutch. Like, I would hate to go somewhere nice and not be wearing makeup, like a full face of makeup, just because I didn't feel very confident in my face or my appearance or the way I looked for a really long time. Just because, I guess, going back to desirability, I wasn't really considered attractive when I was in high school.
Same.
I was not considered attractive, and that only got worse in college because then I moved to a predominantly white area, and the boys who I were kind of thought were cute at that time, the boys who I was feeling, they did not think my face was attractive. They thought other parts of me were attractive, but not my face though. So makeup was just something that I used because it's like, I'm not really that pretty, like face is not giving, but let me just slap something on to boost it a little bit. I think that over the years now, I don't feel that way anymore. Like I can go somewhere or like leave the house without makeup. I like to wear it because I feel like when I'm wearing it, I feel my best.
I like the beat,
but at the same time, I'm still trying to work on that, if that makes sense, because it is a bit problematic that I feel my best when I don't necessarily look the most like myself. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But it's like, it's a thin line to toe, because at the same time, the way I do my makeup, I would say that I still look like myself, and there's times when I've had my makeup done by other people, and the nose has been contoured and all of this stuff, and it's like, I don't like the way this feels. But yeah, I have a bit of an interesting relationship with makeup.
I would say similar. I think I definitely first started wearing makeup definitely unequivocally to change my face because I didn't like it. I also used to have quite a lot of issues with my skin. I struggled with acne until like maybe 3 years ago. That was all like quite bad. So in the beginning it was more about covering my skin, and I started wearing makeup really young, like when I was like 11, 12, going into secondary school. And then over time, as I kind of got better at doing it, I understood that there was more that I could actually, I could make my eyes look a certain type of shape, or I could, bring my whole face up, lift my cheekbones, that sort of thing. And I think my makeup style, even if you look at pictures of how I used to do my makeup in uni, you could tell it was like, I'm trying to carve a different face. I'm trying to lift things that aren't lifted and exaggerate things that aren't there, particularly with my nose. I think that was one that I fell into quite bad, was trying to make my nose appear like really, really skinny. But nowadays, genuinely, I think my relationship with makeup is a lot better. The fact that I only now wear it if I'm going somewhere is a big deal for me, because before it was genuinely every day, and now it's like during the week, or if I'm just going to church, there's nothing particular going on, you will just see me in these glasses, honey. Eyebrows at best. But it's difficult, and I don't know, but does that mean that I kind of was about to ask a question and then answered it myself. I was going to say, does that mean that it's bad to wear makeup in general? But again, I think it's a thing of intention.
Yeah, definitely.
And the motives behind it, and whether you're doing that because you think that your beauty only comes from how your face looks in that moment, or if you're only doing it because you want to be desirable in a particular person's eyes.
Yeah, definitely. I think the intention behind it is really important, to be honest.
And I think there's nothing wrong with wanting to just feel cute and wanting to feel like feminine or pretty or whatever it is. And in the same way that there's nothing wrong with wanting to wear a pretty dress, and have your hair look really nice. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I think it's when you make your beauty, your outward beauty, an idol, that then it becomes an issue. When you make anything an idol, it becomes an issue.
Yeah.
When that's the only thing that you are focused on, or when it takes the place of God in your eyes.
Yeah, definitely.
If it's the first thing that you think about, or the thing that you think is most important to who you are as a person, I think that's really an issue.
Yeah, that's where things get a little bit too far.
Yeah, for sure.
But I guess as Christian women, which we are, you always have to make sure that you're not going overboard in that sense. There's nothing wrong with wearing makeup or, you know, looking after your body, and because our bodies are supposed to be temples.
Yeah.
So God intended for us to look after them through healthy eating, regular exercise, etc., etc. But when you become so obsessed with that thing and it consumes you,
it becomes your God.
Yeah, and that's not what God intended. He did not like any idols, like from the jump. And no statues.
No statues, no nothing. No bowing at the statue.
Yeah.
No. And you know what? I'm going to drag myself here a little bit. I think that's also particularly important to note in the context of going to church. Now, y'all will know if you've seen me at a youth day. Oh, I'm going to be serving tea.
Yes. Yeah.
You will too. Yes. Yeah.
Yep.
Those who are at BUC.
You saw what we did.
You saw the guy. But it's like, honestly, Jesus be a face. Jesus be my strength. I have to be real. It's not lost on me that when I go to certain events, it's like, there's going to be some young, fresh emojis there.
Yeah, men of God.
Yes.
And you want to put your best foot forward.
I want to put my best foot forward, but there's been times where it's like, I'm getting ready for something and I'm thinking, is that really the mindset you should be going in with to Youth Day?
Yeah.
Like, because you're about to receive a powerful word and you're worried about, like, how your face looking.
If the guy from Kennington SDA is going to step to you or not.
Yeah.
Like...
No, genuinely. And I think it's so hard, like, particularly as, like, young Christian women, where we'll talk about this another time, but I feel like so much of your identity and even assessment of your spirituality is to do with, like, your relationship status and all those things. It's hard to not kind of feel like this is the threshing floor, honey.
Yes.
We Ruth up in here.
Yeah, like, we up here picking the wheat.
Yes, hi.
Where's my Boaz?
Yes, where he at? It's hard not to go in with that mindset, but I'm trying to be more cognizant of that. What's the true heart of my motivation right now?
Yeah.
And is that really a true heart of worship if going to church becomes like a production for me? Like I'm putting on a show, or like putting myself forward in a way that is trying to detract from worship, because then that goes to the biblical idea of modesty, which is about elevating yourself in worship settings, or even encouraging people to look at you and think like, So guys, that brings us to the end of today's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. We hope that the conversation was enlightening, vulnerable, entertaining. And let us know in the comments, like, would you get plastic surgery if money was no object? Like, y'all can be real.
Give us the tea.
Yeah, we won't judge you.
Come on.
But yes, if you enjoyed today's episode, please share it with your friends, send it to somebody. We're available on YouTube, Spotify, and also SoundCloud for your listening pleasure. We're so excited to have more fun, open and honest conversations with you. So make sure you tune in next time. Love you so much. Bye.